Welcome to today's edition of Saltwater Stories.
It's great to be here.
It's that time of the year again. The holidays are here. We're all gathering with family and friends.
The time for connection, for sure.
And here on our show, we love to find something in the ocean that, well, it just reminds us of all the festivities. So today's story is about a creature that truly looks like a tiny striped treasure that escaped right out of a Christmas stocking.
It is small, it's dazzlingly colorful, and it's also the subject of one of the most astonishing physics tricks in the entire ocean.
We're talking about a sea animal no bigger than, say, an adult's thumb, yet its unique weapon creates a shockwave louder than a massive rocket launch.
It's also a brilliant architect, a master builder, and it has a friendship that is, well, essential for its survival.
Today, we're pulling back the curtain on this tiny festive powerhouse. We are talking about the candy cane shrimp.
Officially known by scientists as Alpheus randalli. And to show you just how powerful this little creature is, we have to start not on a sunny coral reef, but in a very different time and place.
Right. We have to go back to the middle of World War II. It's an incredible story, and it sets the stage so perfectly. When you first see this little red and white animal, you would never guess it played a role in the war.
That's right. During the Second World War, underwater technology was advancing incredibly fast. The U.S. Navy relied heavily on sonar.
That's the system that sends out sound waves to find things underwater, right? Sound navigation and ranging.
Exactly. They were using it to listen for enemy submarines, especially in the huge, deep Pacific Ocean.
And the sonar operators started hearing something strange.
They did. It wasn't the sound of an engine or a mine. It was this constant, incredibly loud crackling sound. It seemed to come from everywhere at once.
The sailors described it like someone was frying bacon in a gigantic pan.
Or like thousands of twigs burning and snapping. And it was so loud it completely overwhelmed their equipment.
Their hydrophones, the underwater microphones, they were just useless.
Imagine trying to hear a whisper during a rock concert. That's what they were up against. They couldn't hear the hum of an enemy U-boat or the faint clicks of mines.
So their first reaction must have been, well, panic.
Total confusion and suspicion. They worried it was some new enemy technology, maybe a huge undetectable minefield or even a secret sonic weapon designed to jam their sonar.
They were looking for a high-tech, man-made explanation.
Of course, but they couldn't figure it out. So they eventually turned to marine biologists for help. And what the scientists discovered was genuinely shocking.
It wasn't the enemy at all.
Not even close. The noise was the collective sound of thousands, maybe millions, of snapping shrimp. The whole family, Alphidae, which includes our candy cane shrimp, every single time one of them snapped its massive claw, it added to this incredible wall of sound.
They actually called it the shrimp layer, a biological barrier of noise created by these tiny little animals.
It's hard to imagine, but it was strong enough to confuse the most sophisticated military tech of the time.
And what's really amazing is what the Navy did once they understood what it was.
Right. Instead of trying to get away from the noise, they started using it. U.S. submarine captains learned to navigate into the areas where these shrimp were the loudest.
So the crackling, which was at first a huge problem, became a secret advantage.
Exactly. The loud crackling sound masked the noise of their own engines. It let U.S. submarines sit quietly and hide from enemy sonar.
Wow. So these tiny striped ocean dwellers became unintentional helpers in the war effort, providing natural acoustic camouflage.
It's an amazing story, and it really sets the stage for our little guest star.
It really does. So how can a creature that looks like a festive piece of candy, barely over an inch long, be loud enough to hide a submarine?
And not just loud, but hot enough to rival the surface of the sun and still be one of the ocean's most important architects.
Our mission today is to explore all of that. The amazing science, the unique home life, and the astonishing partnerships that make the candy cane shrimp one of the coolest creatures in the whole Indo-Pacific.
Let's get into it.
Okay, let's start with how it looks, because this shrimp really earned its holiday nickname. If you saw one on a coral reef, you might genuinely mistake it for a tiny living Christmas ornament.
It is truly striking. The main body of the shrimp is usually transparent or kind of dull white, and that acts as the perfect canvas for its famous stripes.
And those stripes are what give it the name. Broad, beautiful bands of bright red, sometimes a little orange red, and they wrap around its body. It really does look like a peppermint stick.
Divers and people with aquariums just love them. They have that immediate festive look.
But we have to remember how small we're talking. This powerful creature is tiny, only about 3 to 5 centimeters long.
That's barely longer than a paperclip. You could easily miss it if you didn't know exactly what you were looking for.
Which brings up a question that I think confuses a lot of people about coral reefs. Why would an animal that needs to hide be bright, fire engine red? Doesn't that make it a target?
That is a fantastic question. And the answer is all about the physics of light underwater. The strategy is called disruptive coloration. It's a brilliant camouflage trick.
Okay, so explain how light works when it goes into the water.
Well, seawater acts like a filter. Red light has the longest wavelength of all the colors we can see.
And it's the first color to get absorbed by the water.
Exactly. So the deeper you go, the faster that red light just disappears.
Hmm.
Even at just 10 or 20 meters down, which is still pretty shallow for a reef, almost no red light can get there.
So to a predator fish at that depth, the shrimp doesn't look red at all.
Not at all. Those bright red stripes look dull gray or even black.
And that's the disruptive part of the name.
Yes. The bold stripes, which are now dark against its light body, work to break up the smooth, shrimp-shaped outline. So instead of seeing a little creature, a predator just sees random patches of shadow and light.
It makes it blend in with all the broken coral and rocks on the seafloor.
It looks just like random rubble, not a tasty little snack. It's a perfect visual trick.
That is so cool. It's only bright to us when we shine a light on it. So where in the world do we have to go to find these little masters of disguise?
You'd be visiting some of the most beautiful and diverse places on Earth. The candy cane shrimp lives in the warm, clear waters of the tropical Indo-Pacific Ocean.
That's a huge area, right? Stretching all the way from Africa to the Pacific Islands.
It is. So think of places like the Maldives, the Coral Triangle around the Philippines and Indonesia, and even the Great Barrier Reef in Australia.
And what kind of neighborhood does it like to live in?
It's what scientists call a benthic animal. That just means it lives on the seafloor, not swimming around in the open water. And it likes shallow water, usually between 1 and 18 meters deep.
And it's picky about the ground itself. It's not just any sand.
No, it needs a specific mix. It needs sand, some silt, and this is the important part, the broken pieces of coral rubble and shells. That messy mix is the perfect construction material for the underground fortress it builds.
So without that rubble, it can't build its home.
Right. The habitat has to be just so.
Now, you mentioned its scientific name before. Let's talk about that because we call it the candy cane shrimp, but scientists all over the world need to be sure they're talking about the same animal.
That's where taxonomy comes in. It's like a giant universal library for every living thing. And our shrimp's full name is Aphaeus randalli.
So Alpheus is the first name, the group it belongs to. Where does that come from?
The genus Alpheus comes from Greek mythology. It's named after Alpheus, a river god.
A river god, why?
It's actually a perfect fit because the whole family of snapping shrimp is defined by their ability to create these powerful, super fast jets of water with their claws. They're like a tiny rushing river.
That's a great connection. And what about the second name, Randolly?
That part of the name is a great story of scientific teamwork. It honors a famous American scientist, Dr. John E. Randall.
And he was an ichthyologist, right? A fish scientist.
One of the best. He studied all the amazing life on coral reefs. He was famous for having really sharp eyes and being very careful in his work.
So he was looking for fish, but he spotted this shrimp.
Exactly. He was out collecting fish in the Marquesas Islands when he noticed this special red and white striped shrimp living with a certain kind of goby fish. He realized they were a pair, that they were unique.
And he knew it was something new.
He did. So he collected the shrimp and sent it to the world's experts on snapping shrimp at the time, Albert and Dora Banner. In 1980, they officially described it as a new species and named it Alpheus randalli to honor Dr. Randall for finding it.
That's wonderful. So just to place it in the big family tree for everyone, it's an arthropod with a hard shell and jointed legs.
And a crustacean, so it's a cousin to crabs and lobsters. And it belongs to the snapping shrimp family, Alphidae. And that whole family shares the superpower we need to talk about next.
Okay, now for the main event, the sonic superpower. If you look at a candy cane shrimp, the first thing you'll probably notice is that its two front claws are totally different sizes.
It's a perfect example of asymmetry. One claw is a tiny, normal pincer. It uses that for delicate things like eating or cleaning.
But the other one?
The other one is the snapping claw. It is enormous. It's often this huge balloon-like thing that can be half the size of the shrimp's entire body.
And that giant claw is a weapon. The best way to think about it is like a high-powered, spring-loaded trap.
That's a perfect analogy. The whole process is about storing up energy. The shrimp uses a massive muscle to slowly open that big claw, building up incredible tension.
Like pulling back the string on a crossbow until it clicks into place.
Exactly. A little latch holds it open, and all that tension, that stored potential energy, just waiting to be released.
And when a little worm or another shrimp gets too close, it lets go. How fast does that claw actually shut?
The speed is just mind-boggling. When that latch is released, the claw snaps shut at over 100 kilometers per hour. That's about 62 miles per hour.
Oh.
And the whole thing happens in less than a thousandth of a second. It's so fast it actually changes the physics of the water around it.
So most people would think the snap sound comes from the two hard parts of the claw slamming together, like tiny cymbals, but that's not it at all, is it?
No, and that's the biggest surprise in this whole story. The sound you hear is not the claw. It's the sound of a super hot, high-pressure bubble instantly popping. The science is called cavitation.
Cavitation? This seems complicated. Can you walk us through what happens inside that claw?
Absolutely. If you look closely at the claw, the moving part has a little spike on it, like a piston. We call it a plunger. The other, fixed part, has a little hole, a socket.
So the plunger slams into the socket.
Right, and when it does, it squeezes the water inside and shoots a jet of water out of a tiny channel at incredible speed.
How fast is the water jet?
Around 25 meters per second. And because that water is moving so fast, the pressure inside that water jet drops almost to zero. It creates a tiny vacuum.
And water can't stay a vacuum like that.
Exactly. The low pressure forces the liquid water to basically tear itself apart and flash into a gas. This creates a tiny bubble of water vapor, our cavitation bubble.
So the shrimp has weaponized a tiny bubble.
It has. But that bubble doesn't last. The normal high-pressure ocean water all around it rushes in and crushes the bubble instantly. It implodes. And that violent implosion is what creates the shockwave. The famous SNP is the sound of the bubble collapsing.
The power of that collapse is where the real magic happens. Let's talk numbers. How loud is that shockwave?
The shockwave reaches an incredible 218 decibels.
218. Okay, put that in perspective for us.
Well, a jet engine taking off 100 feet away is about 140 decibels.
Mm.
And that's painful to our ears. A loud thunderclap is only about 120.
So this tiny shrimp is way louder than a thunderclap.
Way louder. It's one of the loudest sounds in the entire ocean. And that shockwave is its weapon. It's powerful enough to instantly stun or even kill small prey like worms or tiny fish. It just knocks them out.
Okay, now for the part that always gets me, the heat. You said it gets incredibly hot inside that bubble.
This is the most extreme part of the whole thing. When that bubble gets crushed, the gas inside it compresses so quickly and so violently that the temperature inside soars to 4,800 degrees Celsius.
Wait, 4,800 degrees Celsius?
That's right. For a split second, this tiny shrimp creates heat that is almost as hot as the surface of the sun.
Why doesn't it boil the ocean around it?
That's the key. The heat is unbelievably high, but it happens on a microscopic scale and for an impossibly short time. The bubble is tiny, and the heat only lasts for a nanosecond.
A billionth of a second.
A billionth of a second. It disappears instantly into the surrounding water. It's this fleeting, incredible moment of stellar heat.
And if that wasn't enough, it even creates light.
Yes, the phenomenon is called sonoluminescence, literally sound light. The implosion is so powerful, it makes the gas molecules inside the bubble flash with a tiny bit of light. We can't see it with our eyes, but scientists can measure it. It's a sound, heat, and light show, all from one little snap.
So we've talked about its amazing weapon. Now let's talk about the shrimp's other job, the master builder. The candy cane shrimp is what scientists call an ecosystem engineer.
So it's not just a hunter, it's actually changing the environment around it, constantly. This shrimp doesn't just find a crack in a rock to hide in. It lives in the substrate, the sandy seafloor, and it builds its own home from scratch. A complex underground fortress.
Building a tunnel in loose sand sounds like it would just collapse all the time. How does it do that?
It uses some really smart construction techniques. It uses its claws like tiny bulldozers pushing sand out of the burrow entrance.
But it needs to reinforce the walls.
It does. It carefully picks up larger pieces of broken coral and shells and places them like bricks to hold up the walls and ceiling of its tunnels.
And I remember reading that it has a secret ingredient, something like cement.
Yes, this is so clever. The shrimp secretes a special mucus from its body. It mixes this sticky mucus with sand grains to create a kind of primitive organic cement.
So it glues the sand together.
It does. It uses this sand glue to make the entrance and the main tunnel stable so they don't cave in. The fortress has multiple entrances, escape routes, and even different rooms inside.
That's a lot of work for a creature that can't see very well.
It is. Its eyes are actually covered by parts of its hard shell called orbital hoods. They're like a built-in safety helmet to protect its eyes from its own shockwave and all the flying sand.
But the trade-off is that it's nearly blind outside its burrow.
Exactly. So if it can't see, how does it find its way around or know when a predator is coming?
It must use its other senses.
It relies completely on touch. It has these amazing antennae. One pair is incredibly long, often longer than its whole body. They're constantly sweeping around, acting like a white cane, feeling everything.
So it feels the walls of its tunnel, and it can probably feel vibrations in the water, too.
Absolutely. The antennae are covered in tiny sensitive hairs that can feel the slightest change in water pressure. It can feel a fish swimming nearby or a worm digging in the sand. And this is critical because when danger appears, it has to react instantly.
And its reaction speed is also super fast, right? Not just the claw.
Yes, to get that super fast retreat, the tail flip back into its burrow, the shrimp has special nerves. They're called giant nerve fibers.
What's giant about them?
They're much wider and better insulated than normal nerves. Think of them like a superhighway for nerve signals. They let the signal travel at over 440 miles per hour.
Wow. So the signal from its antenna doesn't even have to go to its brain for processing.
It bypasses most of it. It's a reflex. The signal goes straight to the tail muscles and triggers that instantaneous flip. It's gone before you can even blink. Speed is everything.
Now, what happens if this super fast, super armed shrimp gets into a fight and loses that huge snapping claw? Is it defenseless?
Not at all. This is maybe the coolest trick of all. The shrimp isn't permanently right-handed or left-handed.
So it can switch?
It can. If it loses the big snapping claw, something amazing happens the next time it molts or sheds its skin. The little stump where the big claw was starts to regrow, a small pincer claw.
And the other side, the one that had the small claw.
That small claw gets a signal and starts to grow bigger and bigger, transforming into a new, fully functional snapping claw. It literally switches hands.
So it's never without its main weapon for very long.
Exactly. It's an incredible system for resilience. It makes sure that even after a serious injury, it can get its superpower back.
This story gets even more interesting when we talk about its social life. The candy cane shrimp, even with its amazing weapon, doesn't live alone. It lives in a crucial partnership with a fish, the shrimp goby.
This is a classic, beautiful example of mutualism. It's a type of symbiosis where both animals benefit. It's the perfect roommate agreement on the coral reef.
Let's break down the jobs. What does the shrimp do for the goby?
The shrimp is the builder. It digs and maintains that safe underground fortress we talked about. It provides a free, secure home that the goby can dive into whenever there's danger.
And what does the goby do for the shrimp?
The goby is the watchman. You said the shrimp is nearly blind outside its hole. The goby, on the other hand, has excellent eyesight. It sits right at the entrance and acts as a lookout.
Guarding against predators like wrasses or octopuses that would try to sneak up on the shrimp?
Exactly. And they often pair up with specific gobies, like the Randall's prawn goby or the Yasha goby. And what's really cool is that these gobies often have the same red and white stripes as the shrimp.
So they're a matching set, camouflaged together.
They are?
But for this to work, they have to be able to talk to each other. How do they communicate warnings instantly if the shrimp is blind?
They use tactile communication. They talk through touch. And this is the most brilliant part. Whenever the shrimp comes out to work, it keeps in constant physical contact with the goby.
How?
It rests one of its long, sensitive antennae right on the goby's tail fin. That antenna is their living telegraph wire.
So the shrimp is feeling what the goby is doing.
Exactly. If the goby is relaxed and still, the shrimp feels calm vibrations. That means all clear, and it keeps working.
But if the goby sees something,
And if it sees something suspicious, it will flick its tail or stiffen its fins. The shrimp feels that change in vibration instantly. That means caution, and it pulls back closer to the hole.
and for a real emergency, a predator attacking.
If a predator lunges, the goby's only reaction is to dive headfirst into the hole. That sudden, frantic movement sends a clear danger signal down the antenna. The shrimp's fast nerves kick in, it does that tail flip, and both of them vanish into the sand in a flash.
That communication system explains their whole daily routine, doesn't it?
It does. The candy cane shrimp is usually active during the day, which makes it diurnal. This is because it needs its partner, the goby, who needs daylight to see predators.
So they're a day shift crew. What happens at night?
At night, they both retreat deep inside the burrow, and the shrimp often uses its mucus cement to seal the entrance shut. They lock themselves in safely until morning.
And for food, you said the shrimp is the reef's cleanup crew.
It's a vital scavenger. Its main food is detritus, all the little bits of organic waste that settle on the sand it's constantly cleaning up.
And it gets a little help from its roommate.
It does. The goby hunts by taking big mouthfuls of sand and sifting it for tiny creatures. Then it spits out the sand it doesn't want. The shrimp will go over and check that reject pile for any leftovers. It's a very efficient system. Moving on to the life cycle, the journey of a candy cane shrimp is a story of loyalty, defense, and the power of ocean currents.
We know they form these loyal, monogamous pairs, sharing a burrow for a long time. So how does reproduction work in that safe home?
Reproduction is timed very carefully with the female's molting cycle when she sheds her hard shell to grow. She can only mate for a very short time, just a few hours, right after she is molted and her new shell is still soft.
That sounds like a very vulnerable time.
It is. The male is extremely protective during this period, guarding her until her new shell hardens a bit.
And once the eggs are fertilized, she carries them with her.
Yes, she carries the eggs in a cluster under her abdomen. Scientists call this being buried because it looks like a little bunch of berries. She holds them there for about 4 weeks.
And she's a very good mother during that time.
Extremely devoted. She is constantly fanning the eggs with her little swimmerette legs. This keeps them clean and, more importantly, makes sure they get enough oxygen.
When the eggs finally hatch, the babies don't stay in the burrow.
That's right. Tiny, almost alien-looking larvae called zoea hatch out. They don't look like shrimp at all yet. They are swept away by the ocean currents and become part of the zooplankton, all the tiny floating creatures in the sea.
And this floating stage is really important for the species.
Absolutely. It helps them spread out to new reefs far away from their parents. They spend a few weeks floating, molting, and growing until they start to look like tiny adults.
And then they have to find a new home.
They drop out of the water and settle on the seafloor, and then the race is on. They have to immediately dig a little burrow and, most importantly, find a goby partner as fast as they can.
That constant digging you mentioned, it's not just for their own home, it's actually really important for the whole reef, isn't it?
It's fundamental. The scientific word for it is bioturbation, which just means life stirring up the dirt. This constant stirring is vital for the health of the seafloor.
So what are the benefits?
Well, first is oxygenation. If sand just sits there, the deeper layers run out of oxygen. They become anoxic. By constantly digging, the shrimp brings oxygen-rich water deep into the sediment. It helps the whole seafloor breathe.
And it also acts like a fertilizer.
It does. They bury organic waste and bring nutrient-rich sand up to the surface. This helps tiny algae and seagrasses grow, which are the foundation of the whole ecosystem.
It's amazing that such a tiny animal is so important for the health of the reef. What are the biggest threats it's facing today?
The shrimp depends completely on a healthy coral reef. So the threats to coral reefs are its threats. Rising ocean temperatures are the biggest danger. It causes coral bleaching and destroys their habitat.
And there's also something that affects its shell directly.
Yes, ocean acidification. The shrimp's shell is made of calcium carbonate. As the ocean absorbs more carbon dioxide, it becomes more acidic, which makes it much harder for the shrimp to build a strong shell, especially after it molts.
But there is a story of hope right where the shrimp was first discovered.
Yes, in the Marquesas Islands. The government there created a huge marine protected area, or MPA. It's called Te Tai Nui Ahau.
Which means the ocean of peace. That's a beautiful name.
It is, and it's a powerful effort. The MPA bans industrial fishing and seabed mining. This protects the sandy, rubble-filled habitats that the candy cane shrimp needs to build its fortress, ensuring it has a safe future. It's a wonderful example of people recognizing the value of these tiny, powerful creatures.
What an incredible journey we have been on today. We started with a creature that looks like it belongs on a Christmas tree, the beautiful striped candy cane shrimp.
We learned about its amazing superpower, how its giant claw uses extreme physics, cavitation, to fire a shockwave that snaps louder than a thunderclap.
And generates heat almost as hot as the surface of the sun, all in a microscopic flash of light.
We talked about its life as the ocean's architect, a little construction worker that mixes its own cement to build an underground fortress, and how it could even switch hands if it loses its weapon.
And we celebrated its most important relationship, that beautiful example of mutualism with its goby roommate.
A perfect partnership based on touch, where the nearly blind shrimp provides the safe home, and the sharp-eyed goby provides the protection.
The story of the candy cane shrimp really teaches us that the smallest members of the natural world can have the biggest impact.
It proves that size doesn't matter when you have super science on your side and a loyal partner watching your back. It makes you think.
Yeah.
What other small animals out there are secretly the vital engineers of their environments? What other hidden alliances are happening right under our noses?
Thank you so much for listening to this incredible story on Saltwater Stories. We hope you enjoyed learning about this tiny, striped marvel of the deep.
We hope you have a happy and safe holiday season. See you next time on Saltwater Stories.